Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting of the Audit Committee to order. And I'd like to have a motion from Trustee Elves to convene into closed session. All in favor? Oh, great. Okay, item 3 is to rise and report from closed session. Trustee Cameron, Elves, great. Okay, we're there. And item 4 is the acknowledgement of traditional lands. You have that, media team? Thank you.
The land upon which we work, live, and sustain ourselves is the ancestral and treaty lands of the Michizagig Anishinaabe, also known today as the Mississaugas of the Credit, the rightful caretakers and title holders of this land. We also recognize the rich pre-contact history and relationships which include the Anishinaabe and the Ongwe Hongwe.
Since European contact, this land continues to be home to Indigenous and non-Indigenous peoples. As responsible community members, we value the diversity, dignity, and worth of all people.
Colonialism displaced and dispossessed Indigenous peoples of their ancestral land
and continues to deny their basic human rights, dignities, and freedoms.
We are committed to learning true history to reconcile, make reparations, and fulfill our treaty obligations to the original peoples and our collective responsibilities to the lands, water, animals, and each other for future generations.
Excellent, thank you for that. So we will move on to item 5, approval of the agenda. There are no changes to this agenda, so Trustee Cameron. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Item 6 is declaration conflicts of interest. I will pause for a moment to look for any. Seeing none, we will move on to approval of minutes 7.1, which is the audit committee meeting of June 6, 2024. You throw this on the floor, please, Trustee Cameron. Questions, concerns, complaints? Seeing none, all in favor of accepting the minutes as they're written? Carried. Thank you. Item 8 is delegations. I received no advance notice of any, so we can move on to item 9, reports from officials and staff. 9.1 is audit committee work plan presented by Tanya. Charles, you have the floor.
Thank you, through you, Chair. So this is our standing item to go through the work plan as it relates to ensuring that the audit committee is following the various processes under the regulation. So at today's meeting, we are covering off a lot of the related to internal board internal controls, 9.2 and 9.3, through both the reports being presented through regional internal auditors, as well as our own internal audit team. Additionally, we've also looked at the duties of external auditors, as our external auditors are here today and will be bringing forth the audit planning report for this year's audit and open session. And additionally, section 11.1 talks about the number of meetings we have per year. And so again, we are mandated to have 3 meetings. We have scheduled 4. So this is going to be our first meeting of the year. As well, there's a requirement to have the first meeting prior to September 30th. So we're good there too. So that's done. And finally, we're covering off, as I mentioned, some additional items in terms of reporting, where Ria discusses their status of the reports, as well as in the closed session they were brought forward the guidance counseling services report. So those are our items for today. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you for that. Trustee Cameron, can you throw this on the floor for me?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Any questions from committee members on this report? Seeing none. Motion to accept this report. Trustee Elves? All in favor? Done. We're down to 9.2, audit planning report to the audit committee for the year ended August 31st, 2024. This will be presented by Mr. Trigiani and Mr. Scorgoni from BDO.
Through you, Chair, I'm happy to present our planning report for this year's audit. I'll be presenting it. Marcus is unable to attend today. I'll start on page 16 of your package, or page 5 of our letter. In terms of the audit timeline, our planning and interim fieldwork occurred over the summer in July, as well as the information systems or IT portion of our audit. Today, September 26th, we're presenting our planning report, and our final audit fieldwork, or the year-end fieldwork, will occur in October in line with previous timing from previous years. And we'll present again to this committee at that meeting in November, as mentioned, after which there'll soon be the release of the auditor's report. Going on to the next page, so page 17 of our package, of your package, or page 6 of the letter, the auditor's responsibilities on the financial statements. We're responsible for forming and expressing an opinion on the financial statements that are prepared by management with oversight of those charged with governance. So as part of that, we work with management towards the timely issuance of those financial statements, providing comments on those, and as well guidance in the adoption of new standards. We provide timely and constructive management letters as well. In particular, these often focus around the internal controls, and specifically those around IT systems. Those become ever more important in organizations of all sizes, but especially ones of the size of this board. And we also present those, our findings and the results of our audit, to the audit committee and to those charged with governance. The next page of our letter deals with the auditor's responsibilities related to fraud. As a part of our audit, we are required to identify and assess material risks of misstatement related to fraud. As part of that, we have and continue to develop our understanding of the board or knowledge of the organization, but as well the industry and the potential risks that there are, and then of course respond accordingly to these. The bottom sentence of page 8 or page 19 of our letter is a statement that we always indicate at planning and a question we ask through the chair. So we note that we're not currently aware of any fraud affecting the board, and we just ask the chair if you were aware of any instances of actual suspected or alleged rather fraud throughout the year.
Personally, I know of none.
Okay, that's perfect. Yeah. And that's the exact right response, is none that you are aware. That's excellent. Moving down through our letter, the next area that we wish to focus on is the significant risks and planned responses. Go through this at a relatively high level in the interest of keeping everyone awake, but also realizing you've had an opportunity to review the letter. That being said, please do interrupt me if there are any questions as I'm going through this. Touched briefly on the IT environment that the board operates. There's risk due to the complexity of the number of systems and the nature of the systems that the board uses. They're complex. As part of that, our audit involves the use of not just financial statement auditors ourselves, but also those who are specialized in auditing information systems. And we provide recommendations based on the results of that audit at the end of our audit period. The next two areas, grant revenue and revenue grants receivable. There's risk due to the size of the grant revenue that the board receives, ensuring that it's appropriately recognized in the right periods. As part of this, our audit approach involves reconciling these amounts with the ministry, as well as ensuring that the appropriate amounts are recognized in the appropriate period. Management override controls is the third risk noted on this page, on page 20 of your package, just for reference, if I hadn't mentioned it. This is not specific to the board. This is a required risk in audits of all entities in Canada. It's due to the nature of the role that management fills in the entity. They have oversight over control. So as a result, due to potential error, incorrect information could potentially occur. Our audit procedures address this risk through the test of the appropriateness of journal entries around the year, and specifically around year end, and as well as looking at any significant accounting standards adopted during the year, ensuring that the appropriate assumptions and analysis is taking place, and ensure as well changing up the nature, timing, and extent of our audit procedures on an annual basis to ensure that there's an element of unpredictability to our audit work. Unless there's any questions, I'll move on to the other areas of focus. This is on page 21 of our package. There's three risks noted here: payroll, capital asset acquisitions, as well as the amounts related to Bill 124. Obviously, this occurred in past. However, there were payments during the year, and ensuring for Bill 124 that the appropriate retroactive payments have been reflected and that there's no future liabilities would be the one that I would highlight related to that. The other two are existing risks that have minimal change year over year. The next page, page 22, is another area of audit focus. This is a new standard that the board is required to adopt during the year. This is a relatively or fairly complex standard related to public-private partnerships. Essentially, what this standard captures is where there's infrastructure built for the public sector, where this is built, designed, financed, and usually run by a private sector partner. So related to the board, there are three different contractual arrangements that management has identified that fall into the scope of this standard. They relate to some turf fields as well as a clubhouse building related to these. They are not material in context of our audit. That being said, we do want to ensure that they're appropriately recognized, as they could have an impact on the figures of the board. So we've been working with management throughout the year already, going through these. Management's well prepared in doing their assessment of these, but we are of course required to ensure that they are in compliance with this new PS 3160 or public-private partnership standard. Our materiality is discussed on the next page. Preliminary materiality is $51 million based on 2.5% of the prior year's expenditures, and our performance materiality is based on 90% of that figure. The remainder of our letter, there's some additional information that talks on some changes in quality management that we've been implementing as a firm due to changes in Canadian standards and how we are not just meeting those, but staying ahead of them. And there's also some articles related to some items on ESG that we wanted to spotlight, as well as some industry insights. There's a QR code there for those in the committee as well to do you in relation to your other responsibilities as well. You'll find of use. After that, the appendix includes our engagement letter. And unless there's any other questions, I would end our presentation there, but again, happy to address any questions from the chair.
Thank you so much for that. Trustee Alves, can you throw this on the floor for me? Thank you very much. Do we have any questions from any of the committee members this time?
Through your chair.
Yes, Mr. Senna, go ahead.
Yeah, I have a question regarding materiality. It seems fairly high for the size of board to have 51 million as a materiality, as I assume that anything under 51 million you may not consider material, which seems quite high bar.
Yeah, I can answer that through the chair. So 51 million would be the total in aggregate of misstatements. So at that point, we would consider if the total aggregated misstatements exceeded $51 million, we would essentially be in a position where we would say if this were not to be adjusted, we would say that the statements would be materially misstated. That being said, our clearly trivial threshold is 5% of that. So we would be reporting anything over our clearly trivial threshold. So 5% of that 51 million. My mental math just failed me at the moment there. That would be less than less than 2.6 million. So that anything over that, Mr. Sinnet, would be presented to you.
Okay, thank you.
That's the top line at the bottom line.
Excellent. Do we have any other questions from committee members? Okay, Mr. Sinnet, can you put this up for approval?
Sure,
with
pleasure, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Aye.
He's got it. Thank you very much. So we will move down to item 9.3, which is the PDSB Regional Internal Audit Update and Annual Report. Paula Hyatt, you have the floor.
Okay, thank you. Through you, Chair. Item 9.3 covers a couple of different things that we're required to communicate. The first is our usual update on the status of engagements from our plan and other things that we have planned and underway. And the other is our RIAT annual report that gets presented each September. So first of all, I've provided a brief update. So I am pleased to report that the 22-23 plan has now been fully delivered with the completion of the Guidance Counseling Services audit. Regarding the two items from 23-24 on that plan, fieldwork has begun for the HR audit, and for the cybersecurity audit, I'll be drafting a scope and reaching out to LTSS to get this one started as well. Once the scope is agreed upon, we will engage a third party. Now that September is open, my calendar will open a little bit more so I can start moving forward on things now that the first round of audit committee meetings are over. Moving on to the non-audit work, we will also have a few areas of concentration for this year. One is our follow-up activities. So this is an area for improvement that we identified through our self-assessment process and included an action plan for. So ensuring we do follow-up procedures consistently across the region is one of my focuses for this year. This will include an update of our findings register and completing some follow-up engagements. So I will be holding a team meeting for my team in October to reiterate that the requirement to do the follow-ups. We also have the risk assessment and 2-year audit plan on our radar. We have reached out to management to get this process started. Our aim is to arrive at a proposed plan and present this at the November Audit Committee meeting so that we can also move forward with our current year engagements. The next item is the RIAT annual report, which starts on the following page. So this is the report that we share annually with each audit committee in our region. And the purpose of the report is to help us better conform to both internal audit standards as well as the RIAT charter by communicating some necessary information. So overall, the report is similar to what we had last year, so I won't go through the report in detail. So I'll just basically highlight a few items as well as some changes. So on the first page, I did note that there are new internal audit standards that have been issued by our governing body, which will come into effect in early January. I'm working with representatives from other RIATs across the province to understand the changes made to the standards and determine what we need to do with our own internal documents and methodologies to implement those changes. This will include a change to our RIAT charter, which I will be presenting to the committee early next year. Our current charter was previously presented and is included in Appendix 1A on page 7 of my report, as I do like to do every year as a refresher. So this one will need to get a signed copy for our records. On page 3, I note that we currently have a vacancy in our team that I will be filling in the coming months, and I'll share a further update once this position has been filled. The next couple of sections are fairly consistent with what was reported last year, but I did make changes to the Quality Assurance and Improvement Program section. So for our self-assessment, this year we included an assessment on our conformance with the Internal Auditor's Code of Ethics, which wasn't done last year. Now, we did assess the Code of Ethics in 37 standards as generally conforming compared to 36 standards last year. Now, as with last year, we did assess non-conformance with the external assessment standard, which we are looking to address again as one of our action plans. I also noted that I didn't feel that this particular case of non-compliance had a significant negative impact, as we have been doing internal assessments and review activities. In a footnote, I have included definitions for the various levels of conformance for your information. Now, as with last year, I have included Appendix 1B containing the action plans that I've developed to achieve conformance, where I assessed that we had either partial conformance or non-conformance with a standard. Now, from last year, we have fully implemented 2 of our action plans and have made progress on the other 4. By implementing the action plan related to governance, I have assessed that we've moved the needle on that one from partial to general conformance. And that would be confirmed when we go ahead and do the external assessment. The last item of note on the annual report is that I've included a list of engagements completed across the region last year to give you an idea of what we've been working on at other boards. So this is included on page 6 of my report. This is something that one of the other boards in the region had previously requested, and I thought it would be great information for everybody to see what we're doing. This concludes my update. Thank you for the opportunity to present, and I'll turn it back to the chair for questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Trustee Cameron, can you throw this on the floor? Great. So it's open to questions. Do I have any questions on this report from committee members?
Just one through you, Chair.
Go ahead.
Paula, last audit committee meeting, we had a discussion around filling vacancies immediately. Did I hear that upcoming months is what your target date is to fill vacancies, and can that be expedited?
So through the chair, I'm looking, so we have a regional steering committee that we have that basically has oversight for the RIAT. And so as we have our first meeting in the new year, I'll be bringing up the recruitment process to them. So at that point, we would look to move to getting that process started. So I'm hoping that the process will be relatively smooth and that we can get somebody on board from it. So, I mean, we do have descriptions and everything in place so that we can get that process started when we get the go-ahead.
Thank you for that. Is there a follow-up question on that one? Not seeing any. Could I have a motion to accept this report? Mr. Senna?
Sure.
Yep. All in favor?
Aye.
Excellent. Thank you. So moving down to internal audit services summary. Renee Lucas, you have the floor.
Chair Davies, this is a summary of the audits that were conducted at these particular schools since our last meeting in March. So these would be completed with minimal findings, and if there had been major findings, you would have received the full audit report in this package. These would have been looked after by a principal's response and a copy to the superintendent and then to the director as well.
Excellent. Can you throw this on the floor, Trustee Cameron? Right. Okay. Do we have any questions on this? Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. Yes, Trustee Cameron. I was just going to mention your eagle eyes on that on the
Okay.
letterhead. Is there something other than that?
Yeah, go ahead. You do it. Yeah.
Okay, so we Eagle Eyes Cameron noticed that the letterhead that you printed this on has the name of trustees that are it appears to be an old letterhead.
Oh.
So Trustee Cameron is willing to accept the report, but with the change, the letterhead be updated. That's agreeable to everyone.
Aye.
Sounds great. Okay, so with that change, can we accept this report? That's okay. We're okay. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Great. Excellent. Thank you. Thank you for that, Trustee Cameron. Good catch. So now we will go with 9.5, which is the audit log. And Lucas, you have the floor again.
Chair Davies, this audit log summary has been presented over the last few years to you at this time, just so you have an awareness of the schools that are in process for this year and those that have been completed as of those dates you can see within the report. So we use this to schedule audits for the coming year and in future as well. It is based on a 6-year elementary and 7-year secondary cycling of audits. So that is presented to you so that you can see when these were completed. And there are also some that are still in progress from last year, but they are almost complete as well, where it says in progress.
Excellent. Thank you for that. Trustee Elves, can you throw this on the floor for me?
Happy to.
Yes. Any questions regarding this report? Seeing none. Trustee Cameron, can you make a motion to accept this report? You all in favor?
Aye.
We have it. Fantastic. We will move down to item 10, which is communications. I heard of none. We will go to number 11, which is committee member motions for consideration. I did not receive any advance notice of any. And committee member notices of motion, I did not hear any of those. So I will call for adjournment. Trustee Cameron?
Yes, sir.
Trustee Elves, all in favor
Aye.
of adjournment?
Yes,
Have
sir.
a wonderful afternoon, everyone. Thank you.